Paula Pant, the host of the Afford Anything podcast, likes to answer questions her listeners send in. This is a special episode where she also has Joe Saul-Sehy from the Stacking Benjamins show join in the fun.
Hey, Paula. I know that you're very vocal about not liking permanent whole life insurance, but I wonder if you ever had an episode where you've talked about infinite banking and using whole life insurance policy as accumulating cash flow as a retirement vehicle. I'd love to hear you bring on a guest and debate both sides and just talk through the pros and cons of using 401k and versus the infinite banking strategy. All right, thanks. Bye.
Oh, man. We have to get, there is no way, Paula, there is no way for us not to get into the weeds in this question.
All right, let's do it then. Let's embrace this.
Everybody ready? So I do not think, and by the way, hear me out completely. I'm going to say a sentence, Paula, and people are going to immediately reach for the keyboard and they're going to get nasty. Listen to the entire thing before you write the letter to Paula.
I think the majority of our listeners are like driving right now. I'd be really afraid if they were reaching for a keyboard.
I so hope they're not.
Or maybe they're running or cooking or showering. I don't know. What do people do when they listen?
Showering while they're listening to you.
Maybe. I mean, mowing the lawn.
Clean myself off after listening to this. Riddle. Right. Here's the thing. I do not think that permanent life insurance is the horror story that a lot of people think that it is. Now, I know.
I'm reaching for my keyboard.
I know. Whenever we say that on the Stacking Benjamin show, people always get, oh, man, you said, no. Wait for the rest of it. Here's the thing. Every single type of insurance was created for a reason. And sometimes those reasons get bastardized by the people that sell them. So because of that, we end up with a lot of people that are trying to put square pegs into round holes. But that does not mean that type of insurance is bad. It means it was sold incorrectly to the wrong person for the wrong reason. So just like I don't think multi-level marketing is bad. I think it's a way that products get distributed. So why do they seem like such a scam, such a pyramid scheme? Because the barrier to entry is super low and you have morons who are selling it for the wrong reason. They're not selling the product. They're selling the fact that you can get something for nothing, which is wrong. There is no product that's something for nothing. Life insurance is the same. So I can't say that I'm an expert in this idea of infinite banking, but I do know enough about it to know this. It can work. However, whenever something is super complicated, there's this great financial guy in
Omaha?
Canada.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to go for a different guy because I was about to quote him too.
Oh, no. I'm going for David Chilton, who's the wealthy barber. You know that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, David Chilton has this great thing that says if your financial plan doesn't fit on a napkin, like if you're sitting at the Sizzler, why do we do that?
Can we go to I don't know, Applebee's or Chill? You know what? Can we go to some locally owned Thai restaurant maybe?
Oh,
get a really nice bowl of red curry, spice level 3 or 4.
I am starving. Let's go now. But I got to keep it at a 0 because I'm very bland. I can't. My face turns red when I get to a 1. That's a.
Oh, Joe, you've never struck me as bland.
Yeah, but I'm spicy in other ways, Paula. But here's the thing: is that if David Chilton says if you can't explain it to a friend on a napkin, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
And the bad thing about infinite banking is, yes, it can work. Yes, it can be effective, but it is. And I know on their videos, they say that it's not complicated until you watch the video about them explaining exactly what it is. That's not the thing that bothers me about it. The thing that bothers me about it is when you buy a whole life insurance policy to do the things that they're talking about, like against a car note or just living your life using whole life insurance to fund your goals instead of like a 401k, you're asking for it because of the fact that with a life insurance policy, it has to be funded correctly forever. And what do you and I know? Stuff comes up, right? Stuff happens in your life and we can't predict what happens. And if you don't fund that life insurance, if you don't stuff it full of money every single year, if something happens, because you have the cost of the insurance overriding everything, the whole bucket of bolts collapses.
Absolutely.
And it ends up becoming a super big mess that you can't extricate yourself from. Guess what? If things go really poorly with your man, I'm on my step stool now, aren't I? But if things go really crappy with your 401k, you know what you can do? You go down to HR and say, I can't put as much in. If you do that with your life insurance policy, you're not destroying it just for 2, 3, 4 paychecks. You're destroying it a ton because you still have to pay for the insurance. And so can it be effective? I used to use permanent life insurance for some of my clients. And I'll tell you who I used it for. For people
can I guess?
Yeah, bring it on.
People who have such a large estate that they need to pass some of their assets on via life insurance in order to avoid the tax implications of inheritance.
Bam, we did that.
Boom! Oh, got it.
Oh, but that's not the only one. There's one that's going to be uglier that you're going to get emails about. Do you know the other one?
Well, okay. I do know one other good use of whole life insurance. If you want to be cryonically frozen. No, I'm totally serious. I'm completely serious. If you want to be cryonically frozen upon your death, you can take out a whole life insurance policy and name the facility that does the freezing as the beneficiary.
To pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it costs, I think, between somewhere around $200,000, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But somewhere between $100,000 to $200,000 for that procedure. And so for that reason, you could take out a whole life plan, name them as a beneficiary. That plus inheritance taxes for very, very high net worth individuals who have millions to pass on. Those are the two legitimate uses for whole life insurance that I've been able to find.
You ready?
Oh, what's the third?
Okay, I would use it for retirement planning.
What?
Yeah. Here come the letters. Nope, hold on. I'll give you an example of a person. We'll change the name.
Okay.
So I had these clients, and this would happen maybe once a year. They make between $400,000 and $600,000 a year, and they live on about $150,000 a year, and they are saving money hand over fist. Mm-hmm. They have maxed out the 401k. They've done, the backdoor Roth IRA stuff. Mm-hmm. They've done every tax shelter that we can get them into, and they have a nice sum of money that is in a taxable position. We get through that. Well, then what do people usually start looking at? They start looking at very, very low cost, inexpensive annuities, right? Mm-hmm. And they do that because of the fact that they don't want to pay the tax. And if I can get an annuity that's super inexpensive, and there's more of those coming around now that don't have all those big fees and commissions, then those are on the table. But hear me first. We did everything else first. These people have uber amounts of money. When we look at annuities are a tax trap. And the problem that I have with annuities is that the tax that you're going to pay is what's called LIFO, last in, first out. So the interest, the money that the annuity makes, when you go to take money out of the annuity, you're going to take out all those earnings first before you get to your principal. And so what happens? People that buy annuities usually don't take the money out. They're sitting down with their tax person, or they're just planning, and they're like, I can't take money out of that annuity because that's just going to really mess up my tax situation. Mm-hmm. Well, why the hell did you put the money in the annuity in the first place? Mm-hmm. This is the time that I would take money, and instead of an annuity, I would stuff a ton of it into a life insurance policy. Because with a life insurance policy, I could take that money back. It's taxed differently. I can then also change the death benefit to lower the death benefit to make sure that the amount of overhead that the policy has ends up being a ton less money than what the annuity would be. And if they pass away, it still goes on tax-free to their heirs. But I've used everything else first, right? Mm. So, I see this stuff get sold all the time. I see people make a mess of it. 99 times out of 100, Paula, it's the wrong person that owns it. I just told you who I think's the right person, and maybe one person listening to the show is that person.
Mm. So, to his question, which is funding a whole life policy instead of a 401k.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
Yeah, completely agree. Fund
Don't
everything else. Yeah, a whole life is something that is, and this kind of goes back to, using it as a tax strategy for very, very high net worth people who have millions to pass on.
Right.
it's something that is really only ever useful for people with so much money that they've run out of any other options.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, with these people, they just have money everywhere. And you're like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
How do we make sure this is the most efficient? Then we start looking at that. It's crazy.
Frankly, if I were in that boat, I would just say buy some rental properties, pay cash. Pay cash if you've got that much money that you're just looking for something to do with it and you've maxed out every other option. Pay cash for some rental properties.
It's amazingly tax efficient. The sad thing about these people is that they didn't have the time and they didn't want to manage a manager. So in that case, the reason they made money hand over fist was because of the fact that they were professionals in another area that they absolutely loved. And when they went home from that, they wanted to spend exactly zero time there. Otherwise, I totally agree, because the tax efficiency, I mean, we could have and you've done this before, the tax efficiency on rental properties
is amazing.
Ass. Oh, it's incredible.
And in terms of, I mean, for anybody who's listening who is in that boat, the easiest way to do it, if you're like, I've got this money, I've got to put it somewhere. A Class A property, which means a nice property in a nice neighborhood with where you're likely to get very high quality tenants, like tenants with excellent credit who tend to stay for a long time. We talked about the difference between risk and reward. At the beginning of this episode, we talked about risk premium and looking at rewards in context of risk. Those types of rental properties get the lowest overall returns, but it's the least amount of hassle. So if you really just have, if your focus is wealth preservation and you've got money that you just want to tie up in a way that it's inflation protected and tax efficient, a Class A rental property with like a luxury property management company. And heck, if you don't want to manage the manager, you could even put yet another layer of middleman in between yourself and the property manager.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do that. I would do that any day before I would go the whole life / annuity route.
Much, much less complicated.
Exactly. And you control it. You have much more. It's your business. It's your property. You're not subject to the complexity and the whims and the fine print that comes along with both insurance and annuities.
Yeah, there's a ton to know, and especially with insurance, if it looks like it's really simple, man, I couldn't take infinite banking and put it on Dave Chilton's napkin. I can't do it.
Oh, and that guy from Omaha, Warren B., he has a similar quote. So he says something to the effect of, I don't ever invest in anything that I can't understand.
Right.
And that was why he didn't get caught up in the .com bubble. He couldn't, and this is a guy who reads all day, every day. He's a guy who understands how to learn about companies. Like, he's learned how to learn, and he couldn't understand those companies, and so he didn't invest in them. I think it was Newsweek that ran a cover story that basically said something to the effect of, like, has he lost his marbles? Is this the end of him? People really questioned him, but sure enough, like, his strategy of don't invest in anything you don't understand proved right.
Wow. Yeah. Good stuff.
Hey, did you enjoy this excerpt from the Afford Anything podcast? Then click to download our free ebook, Escape. You'll be taken to a page where you can enter your email for immediate access to everything you need to know about escaping the 9-to-5 grind to live life on your terms. And you can also subscribe with one simple click to get alerted when new videos are uploaded.